everybody. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas. The countdown begins towards Christmas. Tick-tock, tick-tock. It is 12-12-12 today. I don't know what that means, but it's got a nice little ring to it. And, you know, looking back on this past year, I think my slogan, to sum it all up for disease management masquerading as healthcare in the United States, I think the one phrase that really kind of fills the bill here is you can't fix stupid. Just yesterday in USA Today, headline news all about the rising tide of obesity in our kids, right? Oh, obesity is such an out-of-control phenomenon here in the United States, and they link it to laziness, lack of exercise, and fast food, and it's nonsense. You know, you can't fix stupid. MDs and scientists in general, having no education, no experience, no appreciation, and no respect for medical nutrition, are clueless about the causative factors that generate our ill health, and especially when it comes to obesity. Their short-sightedness and their blindness to all things pragmatic and real stands out in bold face. Now, you know, MDs are not trained in medical science. Nobody is. MDs are trained in one small aspect of medical science, and it's referred to as allopathic reductionism. Reductionistic philosophy argues that the human body is a machine made of parts, and when you're sick, it's the doctor's job to take the body apart, find a piece that's broken, and throw a drug at it. And the drug is never, ever designed to cure anything. The drug is only designed to manage the problem, right? So MDs never fix heartburn. They never fix high blood pressure. They never fix arthritis. They never fix obesity. They just throw drugs at it. And if obesity is really bad, they'll counsel people to get their stomachs cut out. It's called gastric bypass surgery. They cut your stomach out. What the hell? And I'm the quack, right? So, look. If I didn't know any better, it would be reasonable for me to conclude, just by going outside, lying on the grass, and watching the sun and the clouds, it would be reasonable for me to conclude that the sun is moving across the sky, right? That it's the sun that's in motion, and that it's the earth that the sun is revolving around. It would be reasonable for me to conclude that. But, of course, if I concluded that, I would be, what's the word? Wrong. Well, when MDs view chronic health conditions, it's reasonable to them to conclude what they conclude because they're looking at it. However, because their interpretation of stuff that's happening inside the human body is stilted by their perspective, which is reductionistic and allopathic, they're completely wrong all of the time. But they don't know that they're completely wrong all the time, and quite frankly, they're so flippin' arrogant that they don't even know there's another medical philosophy. They're completely enrolled in their own stuff, and they believe their own stuff doesn't stink. And this is a gigantic problem. Of course, you know, the sun doesn't go around the earth goes around the sun. It just is apparent motion. It appears as if the sun is moving and the earth is standing still, when in fact it's exactly the opposite. Well, as a matter of fact, neither of those are true, because both the earth and the sun are moving through the universe. And you know those old things that they had us look at, those old models of the solar system, where it shows the sun in the middle, and then the planets and rings around it, you know, like a record player, like a vinyl disc, Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, and they go out further and further and further away, and that's how it's supposed to be? Well, that's not how it is. Because the sun is moving through the solar system at a remarkably high velocity. So, when you actually look at it from a distance, from the way that it actually is, the sun is out in front of all of the planets, and all of the other planets are trailing behind the sun in one gigantic spiral. It is a spiral. It's like a corkscrew. All of the planets are moving around the sun in a corkscrewed fashion. And Pluto is at the very end. Well, Pluto is declassified. It's not a planet anymore. But Neptune, right, is at the very end. And then Uranus. And then Jupiter. And then Saturn. And then Jupiter. And then the asteroid belt. And then the inner planets, right? Well, it's not this static, pie plate deal that we've been taught. It's a very dynamic corkscrew that's moving through the universe. So even our conception of the sun being at the, this static body at the center of the solar system and everything twirling around it like a record player, a disc on a record player, that's not even correct. How about that? Bet your head just exploded now. So, the proper perspective is important here, but MDs have an old-fashioned, outdated perspective. I mean, it is archaic. Their perspective on medicine and on health and on the genesis of disease is archaic, outdated, and old-fashioned. It is. So when they look at something like obesity, because their perspective is outdated, archaic, and old-fashioned, because their perspective is completely wrong, it's not just a little bit wrong, it's completely wrong. You can't be just a little bit pregnant. You're either pregnant or you're not. You're either right or you're wrong. They're wrong. There's no gray area here. They think that childhood obesity is a function of laziness and lack of exercise, even though a United Nations report published 2 years ago proved conclusively there's no relationship between exercise or lack thereof and obesity. And that the reason that people get overweight, it's because they eat too many calories. And why do people eat too many calories? Because their stomach doesn't know when it's full anymore. Well, that's how they interpreted the findings, but the United Nations was incorrect about their interpretation. The stomach is doing a perfectly fine job. It's not like there's a malfunction in the stomach and all of a sudden the stomach doesn't know that it's full. How the heck does that happen? You don't just all of a sudden develop, a lump on your leg, a swelling on your leg, without first dropping a rock on it. That never happens. So how do cells in the body all of a sudden just stop functioning the way that that God intended them to? They don't. The stomach is functioning quite naturally, quite normally. And here's the deal that the MDs completely overlook and they completely miss. Your body has built-in, God-given, inherent wisdom. Your body has wisdom. The wisdom that your body has is informed by the presence of the soul in the body. The soul force enters the physical plane at the moment of conception. And it is the intelligent action of the soul force on the physical body which directs all of the multifarious, multitudinous millions of biochemical reactions. It's the intelligence of the soul force inside the human body that tells the chromosomes what to do and when. It's the intelligence of the soul force inside the human body that directs all of the millions of automatic metabolic processes that happen in the body every minute of every day. And it's the soul force inside the body that keeps the whole flippin' thing together. Because what happens when a person dies? The body decomposes. Why does the body decompose? Because Elvis has left the building. The soul is gone. And it was the intelligent life force of the soul which kept the whole thing knit together. But MDs are blind to this. Because as far as they're concerned, if it can't be measured, it doesn't exist. And since nobody's ever dissected the soul out of a human body, it doesn't exist. MDs may be very religious people in their personal lives, but when they're at work, they're atheists. And they have no conceptual understanding of the relationship between human health and human disease and the presence of the soul force, or what holistic physicians refer to as the vital force in the human being. MDs completely discount it as foolhardy folly, because to the MD, the human body is a biochemical amalgamation, of stuff that just accidentally happened by evolutionary fiat over time, and then the whole thing was charged off by a random lightning bolt in a swamp. You got to be kidding me. and I'm the quack, right? And then, they're hypocrites, because on the one hand, they'll tell you that they don't believe in anything metaphysical. Oh, that has to be proven. If you can't measure it, it doesn't exist. And then in the very next breath, they'll tell you that they love their mother, or they love their wife, or they love their husband. Oh, you do? Well, really? You love somebody? Well, here's what I'd like you to do. Prove it. Can you prove it? Prove that you love somebody. Prove it. Prove it. You can't. Because love is a metaphysical phenomenon. You cannot prove it. It is something that is beyond the realm of physics. You can't prove love. You can't. And, where does the light in your dreams come from? Where does the light in somebody's eyes come from? What directs the processes of the body to grow itself all by itself from a single-celled organism into you? What's in charge of all that? Where do we come from? Why are we here, and where are we going? Shades of Gauguin. Look, ladies and gentlemen, the human body gains weight only because we're eating too many calories. That's it. It's not genetic. It's not a psychological dysfunction. It's got nothing to do with any lack of exercise. It's because we eat too many calories. Why do we eat too many calories? Because the body has wisdom, and the body knows that it's starving to death. The body knows that it's starving from the 90 essential nutrients. It doesn't have enough calcium. It doesn't have enough vitamin B. It doesn't have enough taurine, and it knows it. So the human body scrambles, and it forces you to eat. The soul force, the intelligent force, which orchestrates every metabolic process in your body, forces you to eat. Mother Nature forces you to eat in the desperate attempt to fill that nutritional tank up. But the food that you're eating doesn't have the essential nutrients that you need. So you eat 3,000 calories at Olive Garden, and 3 hours later, you're starving again. So the human body knows it's nutritionally starved, and the intelligence inherent in the body knows that your heart's going to explode, your liver's going to explode, your kidney's going to explode, your joint's going to explode, unless your nutrient tank is filled. So the inherent intelligence of your body forces you to eat in the desperate attempt to fill up that nutritional tank, but the food that you're eating doesn't have what you need. So you eat 3,000 calories, and 2 hours later you're hungry again. And then your doctor tells you it's psychological or it's genetic, and you need to just cut your stomach out. Or, you're lazy. Get off your ass and exercise. When, in point of fact, exercise will make the whole thing worse. It will. Because when you exercise a nutritionally depleted body, you burn through what little reserves you have, and your appetite goes gangbusters. And, this is why people yo-yo on these diets all the time. They'll lose 50 pounds, gain 60. Lose 70 pounds, gain 100. And losing the 50, 60, 70 pounds is a nightmare. Because you're going against the stream. You're going against your body's best wishes. You're going against Mother Nature. And that's never a good idea. You can bear down and grit your teeth and do a 1,200 calorie a day diet against the wishes of Mother Nature for maybe 6, 8, 10 weeks max. And then you jump up in the middle of the night, raid the fridge, and it's all over, baby. And then, you think it's your problem, and your doctor is more than happy to agree. Again, one of the best things that any of us can do in order to support and promote the health of the human body is to fire your MD. Do not go to them for any medical advice whatsoever. Instead, eliminate the 10 bad foods from your diet. Take 1 healthy start pack per 100 pounds of body weight per month. 1 bottle of selenium per 50 pounds of body weight per month. And my new favorite, Z-Radical. I learned a lot about Z-Radical this weekend. Over 1,000 published studies on the active ingredient fucoidan in Z-Radical. I'm going to have a whole expose on Z-Radical in the new year once I get the 2-hour show. And last night I was in Texas. We did it up in Houston. Talked to about 90 people for 4 hours about all things holistic. And we have Seidel here who wants to give us some feedback about that. Seidel, thanks for calling. How did we do last night in good old Houston?
Oh, you did awesome, Dr. Glidden. I was there. Matter of fact, I'm very flattered that you remembered about last night. I mean, you did an awesome job. Wanted to call you in and congratulate you. You did a very awesome job. I bought your book. I was actually reading through it today, and I'm gonna make it a priority to read it. But I was very I was reading that how many clinical nutrition hours a naturopathic doctor has versus an allopathic doctor, and it makes a lot of sense what you talk about. And not only that, but I just wanted to also thank you for the advice you gave me in regards to my sister. And for those who are listening that are a bit skeptical, I just want to let you know that I for a fact know what Dr. Glidden and Dr. Wallach movement is doing is in fact the real deal. I was suffering from migraine headaches and restlessness when I would go to sleep, and I don't suffer from that anymore with the Healthy Start Pack. So just wanted to acknowledge the great work you're doing. So.
Well, Fidel, you're the man. Thanks so much for calling. Thank you so much for support. Remember, we are all cogs in the wheel, man. We couldn't do this without you. I mean, we really couldn't. You know, you are the man in Texas. And, you know, it's up to you and everybody else that was at the meeting and your group and your entourage, your longevity following, your longevity family to continue to help spread this word of health recovery through medical nutrition. You know, it's always a handful of people historically that make the biggest difference, Fidel. So welcome aboard, man. You are in good company. I am proud to call you my friend. Thank you so much for the feedback. Thank you so much for showing up last night. Now get out there and lend 10 CDs a week and change the world. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Dr. Peter Glidden. This is Fire Your MD Now, and to reach me live on today's show or any of the live shows, the toll-free number 866-582-9933. If you want to believe Fidel, you'd be a smart man, you'd be a smart woman. The proof of the pudding is in the eating, ladies and gentlemen. One Healthy Start Pack per 100 pounds of body weight per month will change your life. Edition of Fire Your MD Now. We're going to go right to the phones because the boards are buzzing today. It seems like we go in fits and starts here. So we're going to go right to the phones now with Mark calling up, I think, with a question about alcoholism. Welcome aboard, Mark. You are live.
Hey, this is Mac.
Mac, sorry about that.
Oh, you might even remember me. Don't call me late. Call me anything you want, but don't call me late for supper, Mac.
Oh, I do remember you, Mac. How's it going?
Good. I met you in Pearl when you were in Mississippi.
Yeah, I remember. How about that?
A friend of mine, that slender redheaded lady, I don't know if you remember her, she's a recovering alcoholic, and she messed herself up pretty bad drinking. And I've got a list of problems here I'm going to rattle off to you. She's had her gallbladder removed.
Yep.
Chronic pancreatitis.
Yep.
Cirrhosis, gastritis, cardiomyopathy, GERD. And yesterday they told her she had RA and lesions on her lung.
Oh, great. Okay. So is she in our camp, or is it like leading a horse to water but you can't make it drink?
She's interested. She can afford it, but I'm going to find out what the protocols is, and I'm going to go ahead and get her started if she can.
Okay. All right. So read me the list again. There's cardiomyopathy. There's GERD. She had her gallbladder removed. She's got spots on her lungs. And what else?
Chronic pancreatitis, cirrhosis of the liver, gastritis, and I think GERD, and rheumatoid arthritis. Isn't that what they call RA?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So how much does she weigh, ballpark?
120 to 125.
Okay. So here's what I would do for 90 days. I'd give her one Healthy Start Pack. One Healthy Start Pack. I'd give her 2 Glucogel at the 240 count. I'd give her 3 Selenium. And I would give her 4 bottles of Z-Radical. 4 bottles of Z-Radical. I'd have her do a bottle a week of Z-Radical. Now, again, this is all built upon the foundation of avoiding the 10 bad foods. Everybody has to avoid the 10 bad foods, right? Now, interestingly enough, there is evidence to support the notion that people start to crave stuff, crave alcohol, crave tobacco, crave street drugs, crave pharmaceutical drugs, crave stuff because they're minerally deficient. Oftentimes, when your body becomes nutritionally deficient, because it's not perfect, and because, there are systems of the body which haven't been perfected yet, 100%, you can misinterpret cravings. So, for instance, one of the hallmarks of protein deficiency is a sugar craving. How about that? Oftentimes, if you have a sweet tooth, it's because there's not enough protein in your body. Your body has gotten those signals a little confused. But in any event, anytime we see cravings in anybody, the first thing to think about is not enough minerals in the system, okay? So so that's all that I want to do with this person at this weight for 90 days. A Healthy Start Pack, 2 Glucogel 240, 3 bottles of selenium, and the Z-Radical. Do 4 bottles of Z-Radical a month.
Anything with her ORAC points?
Well, it's not a bad idea for anybody to increase their ORAC points. Now, the Z-Radical that she's going to be taking, if you can afford it, is loaded with ORAC. It hasn't been scored. The ORAC score hasn't been scored, but I'm going to weigh in. I'm going to guess that it's about 8,000 ORAC per ounce. So the selenium will also increase her antioxidant ability. The Z-Radical will. And if she's on a limited budget, that's where I would start for the first 90 days. So put her on that program and see what works. And thank you so much for calling. I appreciate your support. Looks like Diane from Nebraska is up next with a product question. Welcome aboard, Diane. You are next.
Hello there, doctor. I use the Glucogel, the liquid Glucogel, and I see that the formula has changed and it no longer contains MSM. For that, or?
Yeah, geez, I wasn't aware that had happened. When did you see that switch?
Well, it was just my last, which was probably been almost. Yeah, the bottle has changed. It's called Glucogel Plus, and it no longer contains the MSM. It does contain an antioxidant blend, which sounds good, but I thought that the MSM was pretty cool.
Yeah, so do I. I mean, now Youngevity has a standalone MSM product. I think it's made by the Escape Company or by Ancient Legacy. I'm not sure, but you can search the database. But that's news to me. I wasn't aware of that. So I'm going to call up Richard Renton, who's the product formulator at Youngevity, and I'm going to have him on the line. Hopefully, his schedule's crazy. I'll try to get him on the line a couple times a month now to keep us updated about product changes and new stuff coming down the pike. So I appreciate the feedback, but that's news to me. I don't know why they changed that up, but there's got to be a reason. But in the meantime, I'm a big fan of MSM too. So do a little search in the database of the Youngevity stuff, because I'm pretty sure they have a standalone MSM supplement. So thanks for the heads up on that, Diane. This is the power of the Grassroots Coalition, right? We're all helping each other move down the road. Appreciate your call, appreciate your help, appreciate what you do for Youngevity. Keep up the good work. Janet is next. Janet has a question, I think, about ADD, so we better be quick. Janet, thanks for calling.
Hey, Dr. Glidden. I don't have the ADD. They'd say my daughter does. And I was just curious what you think about it, if it's a legitimate diagnosis, and what do you think about the medication they prescribe?
Well, I have a lot of experience with this, because in a past life, when I was working in Massachusetts, I had a patient who was a very effective school teacher. I mean, she was one of the most talented school teachers I've ever met, and we had long conversations about what was going on in the schools now. And, you know, the kids are lined up at lunch for their meds. Like, you know, more than 50% of the class, the kids are on meds. And why is this? Do all of these kids have ADD? No. But, you know, the school teachers now are raising eyebrows when the kids, you know, bat an eyelash too many times in class, because one way that the teachers who are ineffective and not really that talented and they're on tenure, one way that they can keep control of the class is if everybody's all drugged out of their minds. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of funny business going on here. And a lot of the diagnoses of these conditions come from the teachers, and then it's supported by the psychologist, or in this case, the psychiatrist. And, you know, there's a funny saying in holistic medicine that psychologists, people who counsel people behaviorally about things that they can do to get over trauma and to deal with psychological stress. That's a hard job, right? But they do good work. Psychologists and psychotherapists do good work. Psychiatrists prescribe drugs, right? So there's a saying in holistic medicine that psychologists are like people who are in a completely dark room trying to find a black cat. Whereas psychiatrists are like people who are in a completely dark room trying to find a black cat that isn't there. So, you know, oftentimes from our point of view, the psychiatric method and the psychiatric model is completely stupid. And it is the epitome of allopathic, reductionistic nonsense. So, you know, whether there's a legitimate diagnosis or not, I don't care. Because what I'm going to recommend for every child is the same thing that I'm going to recommend for every adult. And it's one healthy start pack per 100 pounds of body weight per month, complete elimination of the 10 bad foods, and when we're trying to optimize the function of the central nervous system, it only makes sense to feed the body stuff that the central nervous system is made from, and that's cholesterol. So for these kids, I like to see, you know, a lot of eggs and butter and cheese and full-fat milk and full-fat yogurt and protein with every meal. And sometimes these children, or adults, actually, or young adults, will also benefit from the healthy blood sugar pack. Because sometimes when people get moody and when their concentration gets funny, it's related to a blood sugar imbalance. So I'd start with the healthy start pack and the diet and see what happens. And there's one more interesting thing. There's a medical doctor, an MD. Her name is Doris Rapp. That's R like Roger, A like Apple, P like Peter, P like Peter. Just do a Google search for Doris Rapp. I don't know if you remember the Phil Donahue show, but years ago, there was a daytime talk TV show called The Phil Donahue Show, and it was a pretty good show. When Doris Rapp was on The Phil Donahue Show, they had more viewers than at any other show in their history. This woman packed the house because she wrote a book that's called Is This Your Child? And, you know, every once in a while there's an MD that comes along that I respect. I think I can count them all on one hand. Doris Rapp is one of them. She was a real pioneer in uncovering the relationship between food allergies and crazy behavior. And she's got videos on her websites of little kids that march into her office, and they're completely normal, sweet little kids. She gives them a little piece of a strawberry that they're, you know, and they have a strawberry allergy, or a little tiny piece of tomato, and they have a tomato allergy. And 10 minutes later, that child is like a little demon child, like Damien. I mean, they're swearing, using foul language that you wouldn't even hear a Marine use. I mean, it is bad. Spitting and kicking and punching and yelling. And nasty stuff, nasty. It looks like they're possessed. I mean, it looks like the kids are possessed. And why are they doing it? Do they have a bad gene? Do they have bad brain chemistry? They're having an allergic reaction to the food that messes up their brain chemistry. That's why they're reacting like this. So, there's an interesting phenomenon that we've seen in the holistic community, and generally speaking, you know, if we're going to shoot from the hip, in children that have a problem with overly aggressive behavior, often that's related to a wheat allergy. No, I'm sorry, to a dairy allergy, to a cow's milk allergy. For kids that are sluggish and spacey and spaced out and they can't concentrate, often that's a negative reaction to wheat. So when we put the kids on the elimination diet, you know, avoiding the 10 bad foods, we've already covered the wheat aspect and the grain aspect. So you might want to, just as an experiment, while you're giving the Healthy Start Pack in a diet that's high in cholesterol, do a little elimination challenge with dairy products. So, you know, remove all milk and cheese and yogurt and everything made from milk for 7 days, and then give milk back on day 8 and see if you notice a change in behavior. And you'll notice a change in behavior within 30 minutes of reintroducing it. So isn't that interesting? Increase cholesterol, take the Healthy Start Pack. I also recommend selenium. Everybody gets selenium. If that doesn't cut the mustard 100%, add the sweeties. See if that helps. And in the meantime, do the little elimination challenge with milk and see what happens, and call me back. And we're back, ladies and gentlemen, with the last segment here in today's show. But fear not, worry not, starting in January 1st, New Year's Day, we're 2 hours coming at you live for 2 hours from 3 to 5 Central. So check it out, dial it in. We are going to knock one out of the park in 2013. So strap yourselves in. The best is yet to come. We have time for one more call. I think Mary from Oregon is calling with a question about acid reflux, I think. Thanks for the call, Mary. You are live.
Hi, Dr. Glidden. It's so good to talk to you again.
Thanks for calling.
I'm calling about my mom. She's 88 years old, and she's been on the products since July. But then I just found out that she has no gallbladder or appendix.
I know. Right. I mean, isn't that right? I mean, that's typical. I mean, you know, that's the older generation for you. Very stoic, right?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
And so she's been on the good food, bad food list and doing all the right things that way, but still having the acid reflux, and she said her ulcer was bothering her today.
Okay, so all right, very good.
She's
so
suffering from spinal stenosis as well. So
interesting. All right, well, you know, so here's what we're going to do. Anybody that's had their gallbladder removed, the gallbladder is a little bag that sits kind of in back of and underneath your liver, and it's the gallbladder's job to collect bile, which is a digestive enzyme. It's a digestive fluid, and it's like a little bag filled with bile. And then when it's prompted to, by the wisdom of the body, the gallbladder secretes the bile into the digestive tract, into the small intestine specifically, through the common bile duct, in order to facilitate the digestion of food. Now, the digestive tract is like one long chain of dominoes, and everything is connected. When you remove a couple of the dominoes, or in this case one of the dominoes, by yanking out the gallbladder and then downstream yanking out the appendix, you upset the whole apple cart of the digestive tract, and you completely interrupt the process of digestion because you just removed 2 of those dominoes. So what the heck? So it's impossible for anybody who has had their gallbladder yanked to have normal digestion. You can't do it. So thank God for Dr. Wallach. What do? We give the ultimate enzyme. Everybody that's had their gallbladder removed, it is mandatory that they take 1 to 2 to 3 ultimate enzymes at the beginning of a meal, or better yet, 15 minutes before the meal begins. And you know, if it's just a little snack, have one have 2 for lunch and take 3 for dinner. Or you can play around with the dose because everybody's going to tolerate this stuff a little differently. If you take the ultimate enzyme specifically and it causes burning in the stomach, and you'll notice it, you'll know it, you'll feel it, you've taken too much. So what they taught us in naturopathic school was when you're giving digestive enzymes, you start with 1, and then every meal you add another capsule until the person who's taking the enzymes experiences a distinct burning sensation, and then you back off by 1 or 2 capsules. I've had patients with digestive tracts that have been so shot, they've needed to take 20 digestive enzymes before they felt burning at all. So everybody's a little different. We have to mess around with the dose. But the secret sauce here for your mom, specifically regarding the heartburn and the reflux, is the ultimate enzymes. Once she starts the ultimate enzymes, it's going to go away. And, of course, we don't want to overlook the obvious ever. The other 2 things that are related to a healthy digestion tract and the elimination of the symptoms of heartburn, supporting and promoting the health of stomach acid, is adequate amounts of calcium and making sure that she's salting her food every day to taste. So she's got to be using salt. She's got to be using enough calcium. You know, I'd give her 1 extra ounce of calcium for 7 days, see what happens. But because of the lack of the gallbladder, it's mandatory. She has to dial in the ultimate enzymes at the beginning of every meal, and that should make all of the difference in the world. Spinal stenosis, of course, you know, that's remedied. We support and promote the health of the skeletal system with the OsteoFX Plus, the liquid calcium at 1 ounce per 100 pounds of body weight per day, and the glucogel at 1 capsule of glucogel per 10 pounds of body weight per day, unless we not forget the most wonderful nutrient of all, selenium. Selenium supplementation taken in the face of a bone or a joint problem will dramatically decrease the recovery time. So add selenium into the mix, see what happens, and life is good. Thanks so much for calling, everybody. We're out of time. Where does the time go? I'm Dr. Peter Glidden. Thanks for tuning in.